Hello and welcome to Politically Incorrect Knitters. My name is Anne Pinkava, joined as always by the lovely Deplorable Knitter.
Hi everyone.
And this week's video is sponsored by Chicken Lady Fiber Arts. You can use our code PIKDeplorables20 for 20% off your purchase. And this week she has this lovely new selection of autumnal mohair. Just absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, go ahead and check her out at chickenladyfiberarts.com.
So Anne, what are you working on?
I finished the one Hats for Sailors single hat because I stink and I don't make multiples, but it's a beanie. It's dude-like. There's nothing crazy about it, which is an advantage. It's really soft, which is nice.
That's nice.
Yeah, and another Papa hat. Again, forever. I think I am finally out of yarn, so I'll figure that out. And otherwise, I've started another Loki beret because it's full-on production knitting in the Pinkava household. I will think of the great inspiration these times, like the Shetland knitters who just sat there and knit the same sweater forever. And it's good to remember them. They mix up colors every once in a while, but really you're making the same thing because there's a market for it and you have no industry on your island but fish and knitting. So
you make the same sweater till you die, and thank God that's not part of nowadays. Or is it nowadays?
A little bit.
Ooh. Somewhat painful.
It's not all fun and games.
That's funny. Some people can do it. I have the attention span of a gnat. There are not many patterns I like to revisit. One of them that I do like to make more than once is my pattern, the stained glass spirals beanie.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be a hat for a sailor. But I have this tonal blue-green color with this other color, and I just thought that they would be real happy together, and they're not obnoxious, but very unisex, very anybody may enjoy wearing it. So that's what I've been working on. What else? Oh, when you said that what they have to do on the Shetland Islands, and that's all they get to do. So in my class this week, we were carding our wool, and you should have heard them complaining. They don't like the way the wool feels. They don't like the, we did our best to wash it, but we were washing it in buckets out in the yard of a church. I got hot water, but really how hot was it by the time? So it's still got a lot of lanolin in it. It's not, it's not as clean as it could be, but for the purposes of what we were doing, it's fine. We're going to needle felt with it. But you should have heard him complaining about having to brush it. And my aide and I were talking and we're like, dude, if you lived back when, 17, 18, whenever, this is what you would have been doing. And then you would have been doing other fun stuff like churning all your butter and, working in the field. So, you doing this for 50 minutes with me is not going to kill you.
Yeah, like, oh no, we have to brush the wool. Oh no, you're not freezing to death this winter. Get over it.
Right. But no, we were talking about it. And especially because the only people in my class are girls. And so we were talking about like, if you weren't from a wealthy family, you would have to know how to do this. Your only job might be that you have to go work in a house or work somewhere doing something like, So it is what it is.
Right.
Now you can appreciate that sweater that you went to the store and took off a rack, and although it's probably wool, but still same idea.
True. But I mean, there's the whole, it's like, well, why did you do this? Because you like wearing clothes. Or, I mean, even if you produce extra to sell to other people, that's income for your family. This is an important process. And I don't know, there's a lot of like, oh, look, it's magic. Like, it's like, where does clothes come from? There's no level of, no, this actually in order to do this and do this well, it takes time and effort. And perhaps you're not carding wool all year. The rest of the year, you're doing other processes.
Yeah, but it took you longer than 50 minutes because odds are you had at least an entire fleece to process, if not several. And you know, I mean, okay, so in my kids' defense, we were using small cat brushes. They were only like this big. I got them at the dollar store because I'm teaching them a class. This is not their career, so I did not buy expensive hand carding tools, you know,
right,
brushes and things that you use because. So yeah, it was taking long. They were using a cat brush, but on the other hand, you know, back in the day, you might have only had a cat brush to work with. Who knows?
I remember I was reading about. I'm trying to remember the name of the plant. I want to say it was something like thistledown, but that may not be it. But anyways, it was a plant that was used for carding. It has these big, nasty, spiky heads, and it's like a noxious weed. And that you would have rows of these heads, and that would be your carding brush.
Wow.
And I'm like, nice.
I should look into that and tell them about it next class so that the girls who were whining be like, at least I didn't make you make them out of thistledown.
That's right. Look here, kid.
And for knitting, I don't have anything else. I still haven't finished the hats for sailors things that are my pattern that I need to figure out the decreases on. And I still haven't written my pattern. So this week was slightly less productive than I had hoped. But sometimes that happens. We're getting a driveway. We're getting our driveway redone. And I've been out helping my husband because the man who's putting our driveway in doesn't have enough workers. He can't find people to work for him. And so he gave us a discounted price because my husband said, well, I'll shovel and I'll do different things. And so guess what? When your husband volunteers to do shoveling and whatever else may need to happen, guess who else also gets to do that?
Guess who's also suddenly on team manual labor?
And boy, let me tell you how weak I am. The backhoe drove on our lawn and it's been pretty rainy here, so it left big deep rivets, and I had to tamp it with the tamper. And I swear, from like my thumb to my elbow, I can feel like every muscle from doing this motion with the tamper. Oh my gosh! So,
right. Well, that can't have helped your knitting.
No, well, I was really in the mood to knit after I did that. And I went to do it and I couldn't hold my knitting needles. My hand was like shaking. I had like no muscle control. I was like, well, I guess I'll do that later.
Right. I'm just gonna hold my wrists for a little bit and hopefully they'll.
I actually was like, I guess I'll just go lay down for a few minutes. Like my arm, I didn't realize how jello it was until then. But yeah, so in our household, there's been other work afoot that's not quite as fun as knitting. So, and Anne's been production knitting, so
exactly. It's like, you know, the most boring thing to show off. Hey, look, it looks just like the last one, and
the one before it, and the one before
that. And I don't remember if I shared on here, like I figured out how many hats I made of each. Yeah, it's like stupid. Yep. Do I get a merit badge for? Wow, she really committed to the nerd there. I don't even want to think of the hours. Like, it's just no.
That's funny. Oh well, it's part of your livelihood. Yay.
It is. It's very true. And I'm, trying to think ahead towards Christmas. I'm like, should make some Christmas stockings. We said this last year. I don't want to.
I don't blame you. I think I've shared how I feel about Christmas stockings, so I won't go into it, but they're not my thing.
It's the internal struggle I have that I'm sitting here. I'm like, Anne, you should make them. People want them. As my father always told me, if someone is willing to throw money at you, you should stand there and catch it. So I shouldn't be all uppity about, oh, well, I don't want to do this and that. Make the stocking because people want the stocking. And so, yeah, so I've been trying to like mentally gear myself up for it. And to a certain, I mean, again, I've said this before, but with the production knitting, with the making the same thing over and over again, on one hand, it's like, oh, it's the same pattern over and over again, but it's like a continuation of the project. It's that your relation, some people are kind of sad when they finish something because it was so fun to make. Where for me, it's like it's the happiness of finishing something and like, don't worry, I'll be back in 5 minutes. And then there's no sitting around going like, oh man, what am I going to make next? It's like I'm casting on another one right away. Keep going.
Yeah, I've
So,
never had a project where I've been like, oh, I'm sad it's over. I don't think I've ever had a single one. I'm always happy that they're done. That makes sense?
Yeah, I've had a couple where I've finished and I'm like, yeah, I'm done. But there was parts of that I'm like, and just like, well, you should go back and fix them. I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm done. I'm finished. I'm not touching it. It is over with.
Product knitter than a process knitter.
Mhm.
I like to come out and have something at the end, and that's the part that makes me the happiest.
Right.
Like, I enjoy knitting, I enjoy the process of it, but I've never been so sad to finish something. Because I'm more of like, okay, what can I start next? Like, that's all.
Well, I mean, and I was talking about, how much I love the Rockefeller shawl. So I think I said last time that I was thinking of doing another one. And I was talking to someone and I'm like, and it was sort of like I have one of these shawls already. If I have two of these shawls, it'll be ridiculous. So I was like, hey, do you want a shawl like this? And I'm doing endless Loki knitting. So I'm like, I was thinking kind of something kind of green and goldy or kind of a off gold. It'd be like, again, Loki colors. I'm like, that would be a lot of fun. And she was like, actually, my new coat is green and gold. I'm like, aces, this is going to work out great. So I'm trying to figure out my colors. And okay, of all the yarns I have, I am going through absolutely all of them. I choose two. I'm like, these will work great together. But the color, okay, so you have the problem where the color contrast is not sharp enough and they blend into each other. Well, this one, the color contrast was too sharp and it made it look cheap. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And it just had that, like, it wasn't acrylic wool, but it looked like acrylic, like it was screaming Red Heart to me, even though that wasn't it. And I'm like, oh, this isn't going to work out. So again, I'm digging through all the golds, all the greens that I have. And then I found some that would work or kind of half work. And then I realized I didn't have enough yarn again. And I'm back to the drawing board and like, why did I say I would do this? Why?
So there's a fine line between like being classy green and gold and like Packers green and gold.
Yes. Yes, because
really, but yeah, that it has that ability to go that route.
Exactly. Well, pro tip from someone who has done a lot of primary color knitting. But if you want green and gold to be, or even red and gold and other stuff like that, if you want it to keep that slightly old gold look about it, and again, more in the cool and casual than Green Bay Packers. But if you want to do the colors, so again, it's not as that bright gold right next to your green, right next to your red. What you really want is a light tan color. You want sort of a light taupe. And you're looking at that, you're like, that's not gold. When you knit them together, your eye will translate it as gold. Like I used to do it for Iron Man hats all the time, that it would not be a bright yellow. It would be like a light tan. So
that's amazing. It makes sense now that you've said it, but I probably never would have gotten there on my own.
Right, but it took me a little bit to get there. I'm like, no, wait, this doesn't look right. Okay, this is it. And you're like, red and gold. No, red and tan. But yeah, and I do that for, again, the Loki stuff too. Though I think with the Christmas stocking, it's more of like a gold into orange, like sort of a harvest in between colors. Anyways, no matter. I am still on the hunt for more blue yarn and more yarn for that. So that'll be exciting saga of I'm not happy with anything and I'm terrible to please.
You're funny. I was in Hobby Lobby the other day and I was actually scouring the shelves for something for you, and I didn't find any. Is there anything else in knitting news we want to touch on?
Not knitting news personally, but knitting news, out in the wild. That Kia of Cedar Hill Yarns put out that her shop will be closing soon, which, she was our first guest on here too, very knowledgeable about the yarn industry. And, about that she had, yarn from her sheep in Georgia too. But I mean, had a lot of industry issues. Yarn shows are not what they were. It happens and it's awful.
It's difficult being a small business and then throw a pandemic on it and then throw crazy vaccination and other mandates, and it ruins the industry is more or less what she said. And I see it. It's got to be hard. And it's unfortunate because she was a source of American made wool. But if you are looking for somebody who does sell that, we have Bigfoot Fibers and Sweet Mountain Yarn Company that have some lines that are made in America. And of course, you can't forget Chicken Lady Fiber Arts, our fabulous sponsor, who has some that is made. I'm knitting wrong because I'm so into what I'm telling you guys. But Chicken Lady has some made in America yarns, made, processed, spun. So, if that's something that makes your heart sing, go check her out. Get your 20% off, PIK Deplorables 20, to make sure that you get your discount code on that. So we're sad about Kia, but there are still other options out there. Make sure you know who they are so that we can continue to support the people that are still doing it. Okay, this is neither news nor politics, but I sent this thing to Anne today, and it just really hit me funny. And it was a note from a white woman on Instagram, and it was a little note on her page that said, just a reminder that rent's due, so make sure you pay your BIPOC people that you get your information from, Venmo, Cash App them. And I'm like, so what am I? Anne's like, what are we paying them for?
And also, who did she pay? She's saying that you should. I'm just like, I mean, you're saying we should pay to somebody. So, who did you send money to?
But it's just such a strange. I mean, my rent's due. I post on social media, so I mean, I guess I don't understand the difference. People put in work to educate other people, but that's something they choose to do. If they wanted to do it to make money, then they should have a process in place where people pay them and then they get the information. If they're putting that on the platform for free and then expecting people to pay them, that's not how this works.
Yeah, that's kind of, it's an unspoken contract. You should have spoken that contract, I would say.
It's I just don't understand this expectation that because you've put effort into something that therefore it's monetarily worth something to other people and that they should pay you for it. I mean, when I want people to pay me for things, I will publish a knitting pattern and I will put a price tag on it. Mm-hmm. And then if people want that information, they pay me for, if I wanted people to pay me for my stories or something, I would have to have a different setup than what I currently do. It doesn't.
That you'd have, what's the website? Is it Locals, where you have private subscriptions and stuff like Patreon and stuff? Mm-hmm. Well, then if you want people to pay for your stuff, then put it out there on Patreon and say it's behind a paywall, or other websites have paywalls too. But for an example, and if you don't make any money, then I guess nobody wants to do it.
So speaking of Patreon, Anna and I have been discussing putting some content up on it because I need a new camera and we want to build a website. So, if there's anything that you want from us that you would pay us for, comment, let us know. So Anna and I have been thinking about producing a Patreon, some maybe outtakes of things that don't make it into our fabulous show. We've talked about maybe offering patterns or tutorials or different things. So if any of that tickles your fancy and is something you think would be valuable to you, it'd be helpful to hear what you guys think. So that's all. And that was not a plug for us, but hey, it just worked out. But no, when I heard this woman saying you must pay Black or brown people for their knowledge.
You're like, yes, I did that when I bought this book by Thomas Sowell. No. I'm like,
oh no, he's the wrong one, Anne.
Wrong one. And I'm like,
person we
I
want
like
you to
Thomas Sowell.
And the other thing about it is on this app, on this post on Instagram, people who felt that they should get paid were like listing their like usernames for these different things so people could send them money.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to be that bold. Hi, I like money.
Hi. Follow me, send me cash. But yeah, and also like just send me money. Like there was this discussion about I think it was on Stein's website about different kinds of conservatives, where you have the Reaganite conservatives and you have the Chesterton conservatives and the different levels of conservatism across the world and in different groups. And I'm just like, I think I'm the Emily Post conservative. I am the conservative who is sipping tea and I'm making eye contact and my eye contact says, wow. Stop talking. You're not helping yourself. Like just I don't know, not quite pearl clutching, but like wow, you are brazen and you are out of line. That just, it's like, oh yeah, and you can hand me money for free too because I'm doing the work. It's like, no. And there's a level of content creation too, where it's like, okay, so you put stuff out there for free because, people need to know who you are and know that you provide a good service. And it's a form of advertising for yourself before you can build up and, ask people to hand you money. Or even it's, like with knitting, when you first start out selling your knitting, you're not like, well, the fanciest people are selling their hats for so much and I need to be paid by the hour, and people will walk up and look at your knitting and be like, yeah, it's not of quality for that yet. Like there's a lower rate. And just because you made it doesn't mean it's good or I'm willing to pay that much for it. Sorry, bye. And that it's a level of like, you have to be good first. You have to apprenticeship for a while, if that term can be used.
No, it's true. And I had somebody talk to me when they were starting out their podcast and they were like, well, you have so many followers. Well, I have an okay amount of followers. I mean, considering how long I've had my account and stuff, I could do better, but it's work. And sometimes I don't always put the work into it. And people don't seem to get that. Like if you want to have a big account or get people to give you their money because you want them to, you've got to like really bust your butt to get there. And not everybody like understands that. It's not just like, oh, hey, I'm going to be a knitter now. So, hey, give me money. It's, okay, I'm going to post this content and I know my audience. So I'm going to put this meme and I'm going to put things into my stories that people are going to engage with. And I'm going to, do a giveaway so they share with their friends. And it's not just one day of work. It's months upon months upon months upon months and pattern writing and talking about it. And like I write all of the content on YouTube, which you may have noticed is always fairly similar, but it is hard week after week after week to like find something new to say, because guess what we talk about every week on our show? We talk about knitting and politics.
Right.
And so
And,
making it interesting every week is
right.
not
And
easy.
I mean, and that's also not to say that we're super profesh, because we're not, but still we are consistent and that counts for a lot.
I just wrote that it was knitting and politics. Like, I don't think I wrote anything else because I could not for the life of me remember a single thing we talked about. And I was like,
Like something.
didn't work. I just was like, I gotta do this.
Oh. And I remember trying to remember where this was quoted. I think a friend of mine, again, friend of a friend, talking about, it was like a documentary she was watching about a guy who wrote for different TV shows. And he's like, you want to put out your best work, but sometimes it's like, it just has to be your best work for a Tuesday. And get it out there, try to make it better, but really, and I'm sure in watching a lot of different TV shows, we went, this one, not super, but it's reasonable. Okay. If the show is all of that, you'll be very disappointed. But if every once in a while one of the episodes goes by, you're like, yeah, well, it's fine. Then okay,
Well,
if the main show's good.
yeah, I think that exactly. Sometimes the episode is a little off because really, how much can people do? You can't
Right.
always have the absolute best idea all the time. Sometimes one of your ideas will fall flat. You might find yourself hilarious and somebody else might be like, yeah. I know Anne and I crack ourselves up all the time. And I wonder like if people watching are as amused as we are, because I cut out a lot of laughing when I'm editing. There's a lot more nonsense that you guys don't see. But anyway. So now that we have talked about Patreon,
Yeah.
which I had wanted to get done and I had wanted it up and running in September. And as you can see, it is October 2nd. So that didn't happen.
Yeah, well,
But
we have a couple things to iron out, but that works.
we do. So do you have anything abroad we need to talk about? I mean, I've seen all the people getting beat up in Australia. And I also heard that they weren't gonna ever be able to, somebody who their minister of health or something said it will never go back to normal. But and anything else that I have missed?
Well, I mean, you have won't ever go back to normal. I mean, on one hand, I definitely take that as a very credible threat. But on the other hand, it's like, says you, weasel. Like, it's as much power as the pencil-necked health administrators have. So it's definitely, it's definitely a large part of conflict and contention with the Australian government and the Australian people. But I mean, shout out to the Australian people. Like, it's incredibly dangerous and it's very difficult. But the different protesters in Melbourne and other places, they are sick and tired of it, and good for them.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't, after seeing them like assaulting people, like the cops, I saw a video of a cop choking like a teenage girl because she didn't have a mask on and like on top of her and stuff. And so to see that and know that that could happen to you and still go out and protest,
yeah,
kudos, because that's scary.
It is. It is. And I mean, it's not all portions of the world right now, we are facing, if not the same, very similar problems in that regards. That I mean, people are Australia, of course, they don't have gun rights, and that's something that we cite a lot in America. Oh, but we have a constitution. Oh, this, oh, that. And the Constitution is being undermined every single day. So it's not far flung at all. It's shocking to see happening in Australia, but it cannot be discounted as, oh, Australia. I mean, if I think there's many people, including your fine, unelected governor now in New York, who would be very happy to do the same, just in different languages she has proposed. But
yeah, no, we'll talk about her, but
right. But yeah, in other news, I thought that the Trump rally in Georgia was really good. I thought that was one of his better recent rallies. Yeah, I thought that was good. He mentioned briefly, he was talking about Afghan refugees coming in, and within a week that they're already in for, attempting to assault a minor and assaulting minors. And there's one case in, I believe, Arizona, where I believe it was Fort Bliss, where a servicewoman was gang raped on base by new refugees in large quotes. And there was another man who was already in America before all this, deported to Afghanistan, and oh wait, he's on the plane back. If I get his name right, it was Gaydar Hadari, because it's funny, so you remember it. But that guy, like, oh yes, General Milley says everyone is being vetted to the utmost. It's like, well, what about that guy? If you're like, oh well, on an Afghan database on who's a criminal and who's not, that's a little sketchy. He was on an American one. Did no one check? Was there no universal search function that you could have done?
They're bringing in people like that. And then we have Joey Jones. Wasn't he the one who was involved in the Bin Laden mission? He's on a no-fly list.
Right.
But we're okay with bringing in whomever, whatever, no big deal. Right. But we have people like that who have protected our country, and yeah, no, we're gonna put them on a no-fly list because they don't agree with us and our mandates, our mask mandates, or I think that's what it was, because of the mask mandate. He was put on a no-fly list.
Right. And
the standards are crazy.
Oh, definitely. And Trump mentioned briefly in this speech that Germany and Sweden know the problems that come in when you have unvetted refugees, mostly in Germany's thing from Syria. But anyways, I looked up some of the numbers because he didn't mention it again. I'm like, no, this needs to be talked about. The quickest numbers I was able to pull were actually from 2016 and 2015. Because in New Year's in 2016, there was 1,000 women who were assaulted in Cologne for a New Year's Eve celebration. And the perpetrators were mostly, South Asian descent, and which is a very loose kind of, general term for, it was the refugees that we brought in. Oh wait, problem. Report from the Gatestone Institute, that 2015 article, Sweden, rape capital of the West, that in the year 1975, there was a total of 421 rapes. In 2014, it was 6,620, which is up 1,472%. Yeah, so it's like, woohoo, believe all women, protect women. No, wait, except unless we don't want to talk about these particular issues. And it's like, oh, well, are you saying that all people from this certain people group are rapists? It's the question, it's like correlation and causation. If you are bringing a lot of people from a country in which there's a very different standard from kind of acceptable behaviors, and also, in a world where showing a woman showing her elbow is considered showing a private part, and then you take that and you move it to a country like Sweden, where you have all these, very attractive blonde women in shorts. It's not the fault of the blonde woman in shorts, but suddenly you have this, you have people from different cultures clashing, and then you're expecting that not to happen because it's Sweden. Okay, that you
Right.
have very different, again, mentalities and very different problems, and you cannot expect a group of people to instantly acclimate themselves to Swedish cultures, that bam, they're Swedes now. And especially since you have pockets of people in countries, in America too, Dearborn, Michigan, but you have places where you never acclimate to the country's culture, that you have generations of Syrian refugees and others that are never becoming Swedish. They're not a part of Swedish culture. They're not becoming German. And it's not a level of, like, oh, well, you just want them to give up everything about their identity. No, but they have to be able to act and behave in the country that they are in appropriately. And that is not an expectation. And if you don't even put a name on the problem either, if you're not even saying, hey, we need to address this issue, that you can't just sweep it under the rug and hope that it will all turn out in the end when you have such a high problem going on.
Well, it kind of reminds me of, there's a huge thing in the left. I've seen it in a lot of like leftist pages where they're like, school dress code should not be enforced. There's no reason that girls shouldn't be able to bare their shoulders, whatever. And by making girls cover up, it's teaching the boys that, they should have to cover up to make the boys more comfortable or less attracted to them or whatever it may be. And it's funny to me that, okay, so when it comes to like the school where I don't have an issue with dress codes. I actually went to a school that required dress codes. I think it prepares you for the real world. You're not going to go into your office job in a spaghetti strap tank top because that's not office attire. So it's in a way preparing you for life. But so they've got this, well, girls should be able to wear whatever they want to and blah, blah. But on the other hand, these people shouldn't be asked to conform at all to our ways. So it's a double standard. You can't have, well, in this situation, girls aren't at fault, but in this situation, you have to watch yourself because people shouldn't be made to assimilate. They shouldn't be made to like people shouldn't be made to give up their culture, but they should be taught to function in the society where they are living. In your religion, my elbow is a sexual thing. Here, I'm hot and my elbow's out, and that's okay. It's you've got to learn to live with that difference, and it's weird to me.
Yeah, and when you have such a societal pressure to conform, it goes the other way, where there's certain neighborhoods in France, for example, where if you are a woman walking alone, you do not go out by yourself after 6, and that's not cool to say. Well, in some neighborhoods, or you would not go out without a veil, even if you're not Muslim. Okay, that's an issue. That's a serious issue. And again, one part has to, it's not that it's like, well, if you wear a veil, that's fine and I don't have to, but it's the thing backwards. It's you have to conform to me. Well, but it's France.
Whoa, when I've got one, Anne. This just made it go off in my head.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you can wear a veil if in your country veils are cool and that's what's comfortable for you. Is very similar to you can get a vaccine if you want to because that's comfortable for you. But now all of a sudden you flipped it around and now I have to wear a veil and I have to get a vaccine because it makes you comfortable. It's the same. Right. Oh my gosh.
Oh, all the it's all coming together.
Oh my gosh.
No, but yeah, it is part of it. It's like, oh, well, you're fine. You do you, I do me. And then it's that level of, no, you must conform to me. And it's like, again, if this is France or this is America or this is, any other Western nation, it's like, sorry, we're not a Muslim country. And if you're Muslim, that's fine. But that should not have to affect me.
Correct. And the other thing, if that is how you want to live and you don't want to assimilate to Western ways of living, you want to have your values and your ideals, then you need to find a country that is like that. Coming to the US or to France or to Germany or wherever and trying to make that country change for you is not the way to do it.
Right.
If you don't want to learn the customs and deal with the things, then go to a country that has the same values, Iran or whatever.
Right.
Find a place that you can get to that is going to do it, because there's no reason any of these other countries should have to change for you. But hey,
Right.
that's not the point they want to do. I think that they like the disruption it brings, the I don't know.
Right. And no, that's totally fine, because, and I mean, and how often it's, if you bring up the assault numbers, it's like, well, you're a horrible person for bringing it up. I'm like, how about the women and children being assaulted? It becomes the thing that you can't say, that you can't say, oh, well, there's some places that a woman simply does not walk alone after night. It's like, well, why would that be? And there, it was a story about a Swedish woman who was so after the, I guess not Cologne, this is in Germany, but I think they did something similar in Sweden. So after the New Year's party in Cologne, which 1,000 women were assaulted. This is 2016, but that they were, so 5 years ago. And so afterwards, they passed out flyers, please don't rape women, the flyer version. And then there was safe zones, so again, so isn't this great? This is a safe zone now for you ladies to party and not get assaulted. Like, what?
Yeah.
So, guys, we solved crime with pamphlets. Who knew it was so easy? We should hang a sign too. Please do not rape people on this city block. I'm sure that will be really effective. Like a gun-free zone, but for rape.
Well, yeah, if you make it a safe zone, then obviously everybody's just going to agree with you. So that's fine.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
An acceptable answer. Excellent. Moving. Are they supposed to be vaccinated?
Oh, who knows?
I'm going to go with no, since none of the people coming over the border are.
Yeah, and again, it's the bifurcated society. It's you over here have to follow every rule to a T, and you over there, well, if you assault someone, well, I guess we'll just toss you back and you can come. That there's, again, it's one rule for one group and one rule for another group, that you're not allowed to talk about it, you're not allowed to mention it. And again, if you bring up problems with things like, hey, a lot of the people who we just brought in within the last month are attacking people, then you're at fault for bringing it up. It's like, maybe we should look at maybe we should look at why. Maybe we should look at, we should, take some notes here, make sure that these problems are being addressed, keeping our own citizens safe, stuff like this.
You talking about all of these rape stats made me think of something that I found out today, which I was really interested in.
I know.
So,
isn't it fun? Should have probably did it in like a warning, guys, or something. I don't know.
So remember last summer when everybody was chanting defund the police? Remember that? And some cities actually did. And this is a stat that you probably haven't heard, but around almost 30%. That was in a sentence. Let's try again. So something you probably haven't heard is that murder has gone up almost 30% in general since all of that stuff, because they've gotten rid of police. They have people who maybe are scared to, do their job because they're going to get in trouble, or they're just incompetent and there's just not enough of them. So murder has gone up almost 30% since the defund the police movement.
Yeah, anyone worth their salt has quit.
Right. I mean, I mentioned
early retirement, got out of there.
In the city near me, everybody who could take retirement did. So now the city's a crap hole. So the murders have gone up, and more people have been killed by being punched or kicked than all of the rifle murders. Okay, so people shot by rifles is less than people that were punched or kicked to death, and then the people who were killed by rifles is 3 times less than people that were killed by knives. So if people want to tell you it's about guns, it's not about guns, because it's not. So that was interesting to me.
Well, and also, I mean, you have a couple, videos out of England where there's young men with machetes and they're macheting each other, and you're like, whoa. But rather like Indiana Jones, the famous scene where he pulls out a sword and he shoots him. How are you physically going to stop a man with a knife? Really?
Mhm.
Like if he is running at you with a knife, besides running faster, which may not be possible, probably, but if crazy dude running at you with a knife, how are you going to stop him? Because any way is just going to be horrible. Like there's, how do you protect yourself? How do you do any of that?
Right. Well, and the thing that kills me is that people are getting punched and kicked to death. It's not. It's.
Yeah, it's brute force. They want someone
do what they want to do, is what it is. Whether or not they have a weapon, if they want to come after you, they're going to come after you. So there you go. Well, now I'm depressed, and I still have to talk about Kathy Hochul.
Oh yeah.
And Anne and I were on the phone yesterday because we've changed our recording date because of scheduling issues for us. And I said to Anne yesterday, oh, I've got to talk to you about Kathy Hochul. Did you see her? And Anne goes, I don't know who she is. And I'm like, but probably most of you guys, if you don't live in New York, don't actually know who she is. So I'm going to tell you. She was our lieutenant governor who replaced the illustrious Cuomo when he resigned. And something I found out this morning that my dad told me is that she actually was a conservative, and she came from a very strong conservative family, had a very high rating with the NRA, and then totally went apeshit crazy and is now a other side liberal crazy nut job. So I thought that was interesting.
Weird.
Well, he was saying that it was her and Kristen Gillibrand, who is also another senator. She was one of the running in the beginning of the Democratic thing. She dropped out almost as quickly as what's her face did, Kamala. Not quite as quick, but she didn't last a whole lot longer. But 2 fabulous things happened this week. So on Sunday, Kathy Hochul went to a church, the Catholic Church, and she got up at the pulpit and was talking to the masses about how God gave us the vaccine, and that if you don't want anybody who wants the vaccine is who does not want the vaccine is defying God, and that all the people in the church knew because she was in New York City. So probably to be allowed in the church, they had to be vaccinated. But she was telling them to go out like apostles and spread the word about the vaccine being from God.
Right. And part of that clip too, though, well, you're the smart ones, the vaccinated, you got the big brains.
The whole thing kills me though. Who does she think she is?
Oh yeah.
Who stands up in front of a church and says, I'm like God and this vaccine is like God, and be my apostles and go tell other people? That's crazy. And in most churches, that would not be okay. But apparently in the liberal Catholics, it's fine. Whatever.
I guess so. But it's like you're in a church. Maybe, perhaps we should have some consideration to our eternal souls. No. You know what's more important than that? The vaccine. That's more important.
Yeah, so that was Sunday. And then on Monday here in New York, and you guys probably can't even see it, but my eye has been twitching since Monday because I'm so stressed out about this nonsense. Mm-hmm. So on Monday, Monday was the deadline for healthcare workers to at least have their first shot of the vaccine. And if they did not, They were eligible to be fired. So last I knew, around 70,000 people were expected to be dismissed from their jobs. And so we're in a pandemic. We've had a nursing shortage for a while. And now we've gone and we've fired doctors and nurses who don't want to get the vaccine, which seems crazy to me. And then it gets weirder because now Hochul can declare a state of emergency and bring in the National Guard.
Yes,
And
the unelected governor
yes,
of New York is going to now use emergency powers to declare some form of martial law.
and the thing about this is like, okay, so I think I should get a say in what's happening. So I think I would prefer an unvaccinated doctor to, I don't know, perform a procedure on me that has been a doctor for many years, as opposed to some National Guardsman who's gone through some sort of training and possibly never ever dealt with anything.
Right.
But he has vaccines, so we're all set.
Yeah.
Never actually done my procedure, but hey, he read about it in a book, so it's fine.
That's right. And after all, being vaccinated, he is smart.
Yes.
Therefore,
to the doctor
much smarter than any potential, fear-mongering medical professional who looked at the data and decided that it was a no-go from them. That is not the person we should listen to, the person who made choices that way. And again, that it should be that there's many doctors who've looked at it and made their own choice, but it ought to be their own choice and not a forced mandate. That there are people who are getting it not because they want it, but because they're afraid of losing their job. And again, how is that? That's the science right there. That's medical. That's really, listening to a person and their symptoms and how their body reacts to things. Yeah, that's really compassionate there. You're really, again, believe all women except you. And
no, the whole thing is just out of control, and I don't understand how we can. I just don't understand it at all, is really what it comes down to. But the last thing
and then if you have these, again, with much less training, National Guard medics, and if more people die in hospitals, will that also be the fault of the unvaccinated? Because that's kind of how it's going. It's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. That doesn't, again, no logical sense whatever. And to have people cheering the National Guard coming in because after all these bad, nasty people didn't want to comply, just allowing that to happen, and just the mentality that it is anyone else's business is outrageous to me.
All the people that are just thinking that forcing anything that is done by force is not a good thing. Mm-hmm. I don't care what you're doing. I don't know. But I wanted to share this thing that I saw that I thought was really interesting too. I don't want businesses to fail, but I almost want them to struggle and see that this maybe isn't the answer, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. So right. I don't know.
And I don't know, we have talk about manufactured crisis. That's like, well, we have a shortage of this. Oh, it's because of COVID. It's like, we don't physically have less resources now. Okay, and the reason that we have a shortage of workers is not because everyone's dying of COVID either. Okay, that the numbers are not high enough for that. That's not the issue. I don't think anyone's even suggesting that that's the issue of the worker shortage, which is telling enough. That it's like, that you have issues with welfare, you have issues about people, being afraid to go back into the workplace and different things like that. But mostly regulatory, that there's, now, you have prices of lumber, prices of food, everything with inflation going up. we're printing money like crazy. Again, manufactured. That we have, we have shipping issues now from overseas. Again, manufactured. Even little things that it's, nowadays everything grates on me. But I was in a public place, and they were calling people through the line, and they were saying, oh, we're short staffed. Oh, because there's a pandemic. I'm like, yes and no. Like, everything is like, well, no one is here to see you. Well, it's because of COVID. And I'm like, not COVID directly though. Like, there's a lot of mismanagement here that you just want to say, oh, it's COVID, as if I'll accept it. Like you were saying with the coin shortage because of COVID. Is it though? Is it?
Yeah. So yesterday when I was talking to Anne, my mother-in-law was here, and she said, oh, I was in Aldi and they still have the signs up about the coin shortage. And she goes, I wonder if that's everywhere. And so I'm like, I don't think it is. Let me ask Anne. And I'm like, Anne, is there a coin shortage? And she's like, no. Are they still trying to push that?
Yeah, they still trying to make that a thing. Just say no.
Thing in New York. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Well,
we're printing money like there's no tomorrow, and there's a coin shortage. Wild.
Oh, well. Yeah, I don't know. We could talk about it all day, but it's that time, Anne. So everybody, thanks for joining us. As always, you can find us on YouTube and Rumble. And it's possible that we won't be on the former much longer. So make sure you follow us on the other on Rumble.
Exactly.
And follow us on MeWe, Gab, Parler, Vero, Telegram,
Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, I'm still on Instagram and Facebook right now. We'll see how much longer, and
we'll see how that works.
Oh, Lovecraft's Galley Life.
Exactly, for our patterns.
Etsy, and Etsy, yep. So, you want to support us? That's a nice way.
You could even make this Coolio Israeli beanie, because I hear that little star patterns are super chic. Coming into the winter.
Well, if that's the case, then you should check out my God Bless America hat pattern, because it has a lot of stars on it too. So
that's true. Man, I want to make like a Christmas sweater so bad with that, like a big yoke sweater. Or not Christmas, Hanukkah, of course, but there's a lack of Hanukkah sweaters in this world. I think we need more.
Well, get on it, Anne.
I know.
Maybe next week we'll have a Hanukkah sweater to talk about, but until then, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think about what we talk about, because it's always handy for our next episode and what we put out there. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys next week.
All right. See you guys then.
All right. Bye.